What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota, and welcome back to Coda's Clones. Today, we are going to be looking at where the f is my stuff? I'll be back in just one moment. That is a lot better. Welcome back to Coda's Clones. A little bit of a remodel going on. A little bit of stuff changed over the past few days, so kind of had to find a new place. Got a new cabinet, got some new stuff going on. But anyway, back to what you're here for, and that is fragrances. So today we're going to be looking at Paco Rabanne 1 Million Royal. This is not a new released fragrance. It is a 2023 release, but it's mostly a new to me fragrance. And for some reason, I've had a hard time getting my hands on this year. Either I forget about it, or I wanted it, but just for some reason I just haven't got around to getting it. And I was poking around on one of the old Facebook groups that I like to tell people about, and this caught my eye for 75 bucks. So too good deal to pass up, and I finally got one I was looking for. All right, let's get into it. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is what we always like to do. It is going to be showing off the atomizer on this one. So we're just going to... Atomizer is pretty good. It's a wonderful scent, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put big spray right there. So the moment you spray this, you are immediately hit with a signature sweet, kind of vanilla, not bubblegummy sweet, a little more matured sweet, maybe a little more defined sweet. But on the opening spray, with some of that sweetness, you also get some warmth to it, maybe a little bit of amber, maybe like a little touch of woody. It's sweet, but it's a very ambery, woody sweet, but still sweet nonetheless. But we got the initial spray out of the way, kind of got the initial breakdown of what you get when you spray it. So now what we're going to do, we're going to get this bottle spinning up, and we'll go over some of the note breakdown. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the notes of this. The top note is going to be cardamom, tangerine, and bergamot. The cardamom, I feel like, kind of gives it some of that greeny. I didn't get much tangerine in this. I didn't feel like I had very much of like a orangish citrusy kind of vibe, but I know some people say there has. And then when we break them down into the middle notes are lavender, sage, and violet leaf. Of the three middle notes, I feel like that lavender and violet is kind of what I'm able to pick up the most. And then it dries all the way down to the base notes of benzoin, cedar, and patchouli. And that benzoin, I feel like, is what I'm kind of getting some of that sweetness, maybe vanilla-like, because vanilla is not listed as a note in at all, actually. So it's kind of weird that that's what I'm picking up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe my nose is broken, but I'm starting to think that benzoin kind of gives it more of like that mineralic kind of sweet, maybe, that could maybe mimic vanilla. All right, well, now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and spin y'all back around. Alrighty, and we are back. So I gave this about 20 minutes to dry down in between trying to get my turntable to work and everything else. And what I decided to do is, rather than speculate and guess on what benzoin is, I used the modern technology that was available to me, and I used my MacBook. And benzoin is basically a vanilla, which makes me feel better, because that's exactly what I was saying. And also, I may be saying that word wrong, because I know in a different video I said benzion or benzion. I can't remember what I said now, but I just know I butchered it the first time. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced benzoin, because I'm pretty sure I spelled it wrong in the first video as well. The moment you spray this, you are immediately able to pick up on that. Even for it being a base note, it is, I don't want to say it's overwhelming, because it's not, because it's still very, very good, but it's noticeable through all three layers of the notes on this particular fragrance, because that's what I was able to pick up on. The moment I sprayed this, I was able to get a warm, a sweet, an ambery, maybe a little mineralistic, something like that. And that is exactly what that is supposed to be. So there you go. On a little side note about the benzoin, it's supposed to be a mood enhancer. Actually, it's supposed to be something that if someone smells, it's supposed to make them feel better. So maybe if one of those, or if it's a day you're feeling down, or this is a winter fragrance. Winter fragrance, people tend to get the holiday blues, the gray blues, stuff like that, just because it's cold, people have to stay inside more. Maybe wearing something like this might chipper you up a little bit. And that is not trying to make light of people that have seasonal depression. I promise, it's just a joke. But yeah, so what that is going to lead us to now is we are going to get into the availability and pricing of this particular one. Availability wise, retailers do have this. Not every retailer has this. As of this morning, the main retailers that I seen that has this was Macy's, Sephora, and Ulta. But the Ulta near me doesn't carry it in store. So I don't know if most of them will or not, but I know the two main retailers that you can get this at is going to be Macy's and Sephora. Discounters wise, this is not really in discounters anywhere. I love when people tell me about different discounters, different retailers, stuff like that. The main ones I use are going to be Fragrance X, Fragrance Net, even though as of lately they haven't really been discounted stuff. Their prices have shot way up for some reason. Jomas Shop, Max Aroma's kind of the same, not really a discounters, but it's a different form to be able to find this. Fragrance Buy is another one that I've used in the past. So those are kind of the ones that I tend to use and gravitate toward the most, and they don't have this. They don't have the 50 ml version, the 100, or the 200. So right now, it almost seems like this is going to be retail exclusive. And like I said, I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully somebody can tell me in the comments like, hey, it's for sale here, here, and here, because I would love to be able to give that information to someone else. And then that is going to lead us into pricing. So pricing on this is going to be around $115. A little steep, but at the end of the day, it's still a Paco Rabanne. That's about the going rate for a lot of their newer stuff. I would pay $115 for this. I genuinely like this fragrance. I think it is beautifully blended. I think it's a wonderful scent. I think it's not a complex scent, but I think there's multiple layers to it that you could get behind. This one's also maybe a little bit more for the masses. Actually, all of the 1 million line is for the masses, I would say, except maybe Privé. I don't think just that one's got tobacco in it. I think that might be the only one they made that's not sweet. And even still, it's a little sweet. I think this one was made for the masses, but it's just different enough from some of their other stuff that I think it would be worth a buy. I was looking on Fragrantica, and I'd seen where this actually has a little bit of comparisons to the Le Male Elixir. For those out there wondering, this one was released first. I saw a couple people saying that they took inspiration from this. They took inspiration from this from Le Male. This one was actually released about 4 months before that. This one was released in January, and I want to say Le Male was released in May, I believe. But anyway, we're getting off a little bit. So now we're going to get into the performance of this. Performance-wise, this is a very good performing fragrance. It's got some deepness to it. It's got some richness to it. It's got a warm, inviting, vanilla, ambery, still a little aromatic, and it holds that all the way through to the dry down. Now, when it dries all the way down, you get a lot of wood, you get a lot of vanilla, and normally those are the ones that tend to perform the best. But we know those are the profiles that tend to have the better performances because they just naturally want to be stronger. And this is a parfum concentration, so it is very oily. I want to say I think the box said it was 18% oil, if I read that right. I don't have the box. Normally I was saving them, but the box, unfortunately when I got this, the box was very damaged. So what can you do? So this is going to be one of those where, as I say in my videos, I like to layer them. I would layer this one as well. But when you layer this one, you don't get a lot of change. For some reason on me, I have a hard time picking up the citriness. I have a hard time picking up the citrus smells out of this. So whenever I did layer this up, because I've worn this a few times already, they never really came around on me. It stayed very kind of dark. It stayed very warm. It stayed very sweet. So, and it could be some of that tangerine, maybe some of that lavender, some of that violet mixed with some of that tangerine. You do get a little bit different of a profile out of that. Maybe that was it. But I don't mind that. As I've stated before, I'm not the biggest of citrus lovers. I prefer fragrances like this that do have a little bit more of, not a darker undertone, but have a little more sweetness to them, have a little bit more of that richness to it, a little more warm, inviting. To me, the only thing they could do to my band make this better is to add tobacco, just because I love tobacco fragrances. But the moment you add tobacco to this, you do get that, because I think that is the biggest difference between this is Le Male has tobacco and honey, and this doesn't. Yeah, this is very much a fall and winter. I feel like this would be a wonderful fall fragrance. If I had to pick one season to wear this in, it would probably be fall. because it doesn't have some of that overwhelmingness that a lot of the winter fragrances tend to have, because a lot of winter fragrances have such deep, thick oil bases to them that most of the time, a lot of the winter fragrances, that's going to be that tonka bean, that tobacco, that pure raw vanilla, some bourbon, stuff like that. This don't have that, so but because it still has a lot of that warmth, that ambric, it's still aromatic, and that for me puts this more of like a fall time fragrance. So to wrap up the performance on this one, the 5 to 7 spray range where I like to be, that will get you about 7 hours of performance out of this one, and that's with refreshing about halfway through. If you started out with 5 to 7, I bet it would still work just as well. Projection on this one is very good. It projects 2 to 4 feet. It jumped off my skin. And the sillage on this one is very good as well. Everywhere you go, there's going to be a trail of where you were. The sillage on this one is probably somewhere in the 5 to 6 foot range. So very good. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. I think I hit all the topics that I wanted to hit on. This fragrance right here, to me, is well worth the money. This might be the best 1 million they've released so far. For me personally, I know this is the one that I like the most. Between the ones that I've had being the original, Lucky, Privé, and Elixir, I've never smelled the 1 million Parfum, oddly enough. But between all of those and this one, I would prefer this one the most. This one, to me, is a little more completed. This one's a little deeper. It's a little more warmer. It's got more of that inviting smell. So this one is going to be one where you walk into a room, it's going to announce when you walk into that room. So yeah, so that is going to wrap me up on this one. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone that's been subscribed to the channel. Thank you for all the feedback I've been getting. I genuinely appreciate it. And as always, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.